Hello, and welcome to New Beginnings Start Today, the podcast for people who want to grow deeper in their faith in the Lord. I'm your host, Dr. Douglas Keffer, a minister, clinical pastoral counselor here in Roanoke, Virginia, and I have a passion for helping people to live their faith. Today we're going to be talking about seeking God's guidance and how you can ask God to give you the wisdom to live every day, to live in His wisdom every day. Let's begin. There's not going to be a day that goes by that we are not going to need to seek God's guidance about an issue that arises. This need can and does come in many forms. I was recently talking with a person, and they were faced with a real dilemma that concerned what was best for the care of her mother. She was faced with a very difficult decision and called me. We talked about the situation at length and came up with a plan of action that we believed that would be best for her mother based on the circumstances. We also believed that this was what the Lord was directing us to do through His Spirit. She proceeded with the plan, and things seemed to stabilize somewhat. This person told me that she felt better making the decision she did. I was so pleased to listen to the growth in this person because she saw the impact of taking this matter to the Lord in prayer and asking for His guidance. The brother of Jesus, James, gives us great insight into attaining God's wisdom as we have to deal with the issues that arise in our daily lives. He says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given you." James 1, verse 5. I have told my clients many times over the years in counseling that God does not play favor when He gives wisdom to those who are seeking it. He hears the petition of the wife who is dealing with her husband's sex addiction and needs help in being able to make sense of what effect that is having on her. She knows every time that they are sexually intimate that there is a possibility that her husband is seeing those women that he has been looking at in those porn sites. Even worse, she may have to deal with the probability that her husband is seeing the face of the woman that he has had sex with and has not been truthful with her about the affair. I've had to deal with many wives and husbands that cannot be sexually intimate with their spouses until their spouses have been tested for STDs. They look at me and say, "Dr. Keffer, are you serious?" I have to say to them that I am, and they need to protect themselves because STDs are at an epidemic level in all age groups right now. What does that say about where we are as a society and having moral values about the most beautiful gift that God has given husband and wife? I say husband and wife because sexual intimacy is only permitted by God in a spousal relationship. This view is looked at today as being outdated for the world that we live in today. I am here to tell you that it is not outdated, but it is the will of God as He has made sex a privilege for a man and a woman only in the institution of marriage. The Apostle Paul speaks very poignantly about this issue when he says, "Flee sexual immorality. All other sins a person commits are outside the body, but whoever sins sexually sins against their own body. Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. 1 Corinthians 6, verses 18 through 20. Paul is making it very clear that when sexual immorality takes place, the person or people are sinning against their bodies and their spirits. This is why people must understand how important it is to ask God to show them what it is that they should be doing in these circumstances. This will allow us to get back to what God's wisdom is telling us about fidelity in marriage. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God. It is a privilege we have as God's children. It boggles my mind to think of how many people today have never thought about asking God for wisdom to help them know what to do in their circumstances. Countless people are faced with very difficult issues they are dealing with and find themselves at a loss of what to do. They proceed in the situation hoping that everything will be okay, and most of the time it does not work out for the best. Then, when things fall apart, they just get angry, and that can lead to bitterness and strife. This happens when a dad sits down the law about his teenage son and how he can have the use of the family car now that he can drive. Dad goes over the rules and the son agrees to them. The son is very much aware of the consequences if he does not abide by the rules. The weekend comes and the son wants to use the car to take his girlfriend to the movies. Dad agrees and hands over the keys and watches the son drive off. Midnight comes and the son is still not home, and yet he is not answering his phone. Dad's getting very concerned, and finally, about 12:30, he sees the car pull into the driveway. He greets his son at the front door and asks him where he has been because the son knows the curfew is 11 o'clock. The son looks at the dad and just blows him off because the son in his mind thought the rule of having a curfew was absurd and he was not going to abide by it. This is where the dad was given the opportunity to go to God and ask his guidance and ask God for wisdom on how to handle this situation. Then Dad would be led to talk with his son about how he had broken the rule that he agreed to, and there was going to be the consequence of the son breaking those rules. Dad decided that his son would not be able to use the car for the next week. I could go on and use so many other examples of the importance of being able to ask God for the wisdom to handle situations that arise that call for decisions that many times are bigger than we are. When we acknowledge that we need to seek God's wisdom on issues that require hard decisions, we begin to see our world differently. We begin to see the possibilities that are out there and for us, and that the issues we face do not have to be so daunting. King Solomon gives us some of God's wisdom that he was given from God when he said, "How much better to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than silver." Proverbs 16:16. So many times people put their trust in what they think is valuable in this physical world. Who wouldn't want gold? Who wouldn't want silver? They are very valuable, and having them makes life so much better, or so many people think that. I am thinking about a man who came to me for counseling because he fell in love with a woman who had 2 teenage children. He sat down on the couch in my counseling room and said, "Dr. Keffer, please help me learn how to identify with these 2 teenagers because I don't have a clue what it is that I am supposed to be doing." This man could have bought and sold me all day long because he was wealthy. The silver and gold that he had was of no value in him being able to know how to parent those two teenage people, which now were his responsibility. It was a privilege to sit and help this man learn how to go to God and ask him for his wisdom on how to be a great husband and stepdad to the family he now has. I am seeing too much importance being placed on what people have materialistically. So much of what people see the value in means that what they have has to be bigger and better than what their neighbor has, or that they are never satisfied with what they have right now. This is the lie that Satan wants all of us to believe, but that is all it is, a lie. I believe that when we learn how wonderful it is to know that we can go to the very throne room of God and talk with Him about what is going on in our lives, we will be able to find happiness and contentment in this life. We will value our spouses, our children, our extended families, our friends, our co-workers, our church family with a greater appreciation for who they are to us. There will be a greater concern for what is happening around us as God gives us the wisdom to see how that we can make things better in our world and allow Him to use us for His purpose. Remember the truth James gives to us. If any of you lack wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given you. James 1 and verse 5. Do you hear the promise? It will be given to you. Do you hear? It will be given to you. It will be given to you. I pray that each of you who want to seek God's wisdom will open your heart and mind and allow God to speak to you, and you find that your life is so much better in all that you do because you are seeking God's help that will make your life better than what it could ever be and what you could ever imagine. Thank you for listening to this episode. And I want to invite you to contact me and share how you find that seeking God's guidance is strengthening your faith and your daily experience. If you are seeing this on YouTube, please click the subscribe button and the like button, and also click on the share button to share it with all your friends. That would be so helpful to me. Tell me about other issues that you would like me to address by leaving your comments. Or you can email me at drdouglaskeffer@gmail.com. Until next time, God bless each of you.